What is up, everybody? Guys and gals popping in for this installment of Behind the Deal. I've got Mr. Beau Hollis with me today and Brady Winder. What's up, fellas?
What's up? What's up?
Dude, Beau, so it's been a few weeks, maybe even a month or so since we've had a chance to hop on a Behind the Deal, and you've had a lot of action going on. I've been watching the videos of you. I think you were standing on top of a junk pile one day in one of the houses, and then your assistant acquisitions manager gal closed another deal that she cashed, which is really cool. Dude, give us an update business wise. What's been cooking since last time we connected?
Man, so first off, I do love your matching sweater. We did not purposely coordinate this today, and I actually didn't even think about this when I got dressed today, but I guess they say great minds think alike.
That's right. It's cold today, dude. And the heater in this quadrant of the office. So you've been in the loft before. It's 8,000 square feet, and there's 4 like HVAC units on top of the building on each quadrant. This quadrant went out like 2 weeks ago, and it's 20 something degrees this morning.
Oh my!
And so my office, I walk in, it was like an igloo. But we have the little heater down here, so I had to wear this. Man, it's actually cold in here.
Yeah, I enjoy this. It's very comfy. But man, life has been good. Business is rocking and rolling, and we've got a lot of interesting deals. And a lot of times in this business, it's just an ebb and flow kind of a business. It can tend to be like that, especially sometimes in the wintertime. You can have that ebb and flow season, but this is a business where I will say that as long as you continue to plant those seeds and do the work, you will reap the harvest at some point. And we're about to get to a lot of that reaping and harvesting time. So I'm excited about that. We've got a lot of really actually good deals going on right now that are the junk pile deal. That's I'll say that's a grand slam of grand slams for us in our business. That house is awesome. Got the deal that we're talking about today as well. Some really good stuff going on. So we're excited.
Dude, let's talk about this really quick. So you'd mentioned kind of that seasonality or the ebb and flow. And in our data, and we've shared it on some of our 60 day to a deal episodes and shared it on here, where your traffic has a little bit of a dip for motivated house sellers, especially. Buyers are actually different. Like our buyer data is kind of opposite. We'll end up seeing more traffic for buyer searches around like your November, December, because that's where, for cash buyers, I'm talking like your investors, because that's where a good hunk of those people are needing to go buy more properties. And they're like, oh, shoot, if you got a big tax bill, they might be going and buying a piece of real estate, right?
Yep.
And so for cash buyers, we see those searches go up towards the end of the year. Motivated sellers, they soften during the holidays. And then about mid-February is when we really start to see conversions pick up, traffic pick up again. It's only maybe a 15%, maybe 20% max dip, but then it picks up. What do you see on the deal side? Like, do you guys have a pickup in deals, contracts going, getting closed in spring, summer, or kind of what's it look like for you guys?
For us, like just this last probably 2 years, really since the pandemic, I think that it has changed a pinch. And I can't really put my finger on exactly what that change was on the internet side of things. But it has changed just a pinch, not in a bad way, but it's just changed it a little bit. And so since probably November, December, we've seen a little bit of a dip, but we have starting to just now see kind of a rebound in kind of lead volume, lead flow, and even like quality leads have picked up.
Cool.
Just a little bit recently. But our biggest time of the year for me is always been spring, summer. Summer has just been always a really good time for us. It just seems like, the grass is growing, landlords are tired, they're ready to get rid of the tenants who don't want to cut their grass and all those kind of little things like that. So I'm looking forward to a really good spring and summer.
I love it. And guys, we're going to talk about a deal that Beau closed called the Sketchy House Party deal here in a second. But before we go over there, Brady, I want to toss over to you, buddy. So Brady's got his own house projects going on. We had a chance to build a wall at his house this Saturday. Dude, how much farther have you had a chance to go with framing out that puppy, guys? Brady's building his own house from ground up, and it's quite the project.
You know, my wife and I decided, hey, you know what? We've always wanted to build our own house. Let's wait until there's a pandemic when materials go through the roof. You can't get contractors. Let's start right when the pandemic hits because this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
No, it has been a lot of fun. We're building our own house. I'm the GC. We're about halfway through. We got the whole thing framed out, and it's been a good learning lesson in budgeting and time management, mostly time management and patience. But wouldn't trade it for anything. It's quite the thrilling experience. It's kind of the classic YouTube, like follow people on YouTube, learn how to build your own house. And then we do it. And, you know, our hope was, hey, maybe we can inspire a couple of other young couples to do the same and go after their dreams. So it's been a lot of fun. I wish I had time to make some content on it. Unfortunately, you don't have time to do that either when you're building a house. Surprise. It's been fun though, man.
I love it, dude. So when's the official, I know you guys don't know for sure, but when's the targeted move-in date?
Targeted move-in date is July, or actually first day of August. So pretty much right before we go back to school. That's about as long as we can take with the loan before we start paying penalties. But dude, I'm gunning to finish earlier in the summer and have some more of my time back and have some good family vacation time. So we're just rock and rolling nights and weekends, man.
I like it, dude. Awesome. Well, when you do, we're gonna have to have a sketchy house party of ourselves up there at your house. But we're gonna dive into this deal now. So I'm gonna experiment something a little bit new here, y'all, if I can.
Those are the words that makes the content team nervous when Trevor says this.
I know. So I'm gonna pull up the iPad and we're gonna do a little bit of drawing, kind of map out this deal. We'll do a screen share here in a second. But let's kind of break down the deal at a high level. Let's cast a vision, kind of shape it for people. Let's start at all the way the end of it. What was the profit on this deal? Then we're going to work our way backwards on this puppy.
$20,000.
Cool. So $20K profit.
Yep.
I like it. Let's kind of walk me through high level.
I would have waited a little bit longer. I could have got 30, but easy 20.
Cool. I like it. So my pencil is not hooking up to this for some reason. Not sure what the deal is. Let me try this again. So we've got a $20,000 profit. Then where'd that deal come from ultimately? What was the lead source?
It came from Carrot actually, but it was a Google search.
Cool.
Google search phone call.
Boom. Okay, cool.
So specifically, I want to be really specific at that because I know exactly where I was when I received this call. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And it was a call and I was like, you know what? I'm going to answer the call. Answered it. And the guy was like, hey, are you one of these, house buying people, And so we ended up having like a 30-minute phone call at like 10 o'clock at night about this property.
Mm-hmm. Dude, so what was the situation with that seller? So these ones here are always kind of cool ones. So have you found, Beau, is there ever a difference that you find when someone calls your site versus opts in on the form? Is there a quality of lead difference? Is there a motivation difference, or do you see no difference there?
I personally think it's a huge difference, and personally, because I think anybody who's willing to pick up their phone and talk to a random stranger, it's an urgency thing. I want to talk to somebody right this second.
Yep.
Versus I'm willing to do this on the internet and wait and kind of test the waters, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So anybody who's willing to have a conversation at 10 o'clock at night, I want to talk to that person. So that was something that was really, really important to me, was to answer that call. So yeah. Cool. So you want me to jump kind of right into the conversation?
Do it, dude. Yep.
I like it. So I answered this call, and this individual's name was Scott, and Scott lived out of town, and it's a very interesting ownership situation on the property. Scott did not actually own this property. It was owned in joint ownership, 50-50 between Scott's mother, who was ailing, and Scott's sister, who was estranged.
Really?
And so Scott had power of attorney over his ailing mom and was just doing his part of the deal to help move the ball forward a little bit to get this house sold so they could actually pay for the mother's, care. That was their main motivation, was to sell and take care of the mother.
So even though it's 50-50 split, it's pretty much he's full control because he's got the power of attorney.
He has the mother's power of attorney to sell the property, her interest, her half interest.
Gotcha.
So legally, she was selling a half interest in the property. So we still had to get the sister on board, which then came a problem. And that kind of, when you have multiple parties involved, then you start having issues. And that was where everything just took a big, like 180, and you just started going the other direction, was when the sister had gotten involved in this deal.
Gotcha, dude. So I'm kind of testing something out here. Like I said, I'm writing down some of the things we may create, like a little worksheet in the future to streamline this. We've got the source. I'm going to reverse for people really quick. Scott, who was kind of had power of attorney for his mom's 50% share of the deal. He did a Google search. He was out of the area. He landed on Beau's site that was ranking really high in Google, his carrot site. He clicked it and he thought, man, I'm going to physically call at 10 p.m. And he probably didn't think he was actually going to get someone, but Beau picked it up. And guys, this is the difference here. Like, we'll talk with people and they'll say, man, I'm getting traffic and leads, but they're not turning into deals. This is the difference, because let's say that Scott opted into somebody else's site 5 minutes before Beau's, but they didn't answer that phone, or they didn't call him back for 24 hours. Beau was already hot on it at 10 p.m. Doing that. Now, in those early days, you guys for sure have to pick those ones up, especially one like Beau is saying that calls in at that time and it's a call. They're gonna be really motivated. So those would be good ones for you guys to cherry pick as you grow that business more and more, and talk with the really motivated ones right there. So the motivation was to sell the 50% of her share, and hopefully the whole house, to pay for the mother's care. And then you had some challenges. So what were some of the challenges you faced in this deal, man?
So I made an offer on the property, and the brother and the sister, they hadn't spoken in 30 years. So they speak and they come to some level of an agreement that I needed to come up $10,000 on my price. So I came up $10,000. They said yes. And so I'm like, great. So we signed a purchase agreement, and I set the closing for, I don't know, let's just say 14 days, right? Something, an average time frame. Well, we get to go to the first closing. So we go to closing number one, right? There's multiples here. Go to closing number one, and calls me and says, like, actually just, he says, I'm sick. I got to go to the hospital. I can't come. And I'm like, okay, no worries. Hope you're okay. We all had sickness, let me know when you're better and we'll reschedule. So the second closing comes around. I go to the closing office and I wait and I wait and I wait and I wait. I bring my checkbook, I'm buying this house, and no one shows up. Like, not at all. I'm just sitting there, literally just kicking my feet up at the closing table. And we try to call, the attorneys try to call, everyone's calling. I text like a million times because can be that kind of a person. And no one, crickets, like literally for like a day, a whole entire day.
Were they at the party? They were partying at the house.
Not at this time. This was, and we'll get back to that in a second. So I get a hold of the individual, and this individual had said that the sister had flipped out on him and called Hell's Angels, and like the bike gangs. Like, there's a couple of different bike gangs, Grim Reapers and Hell's Angels, and they were after him because he's trying to take advantage of the sister and the mom and blah blah blah. And so he's like, I'm hiding out until the Hell's Angels and Grim Reapers, they're not after me anymore. And I'm like, man, this is just made up crap, This is pure bull crap. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm laughing because this is so absurd, right? This is out of control. So he says that, after like a week, I hear back from him. He's like, I'm out of hiding. I talked to my sister and everything's calmed down. And I'm like, okay, so give me the story about this. He was like, in my past life, I was part of the bike gangs, and, this is real stuff. They'll come and knock you off. And I was like, okay, like, and then what I really thought was, okay, is this a joke? Are you really trying to tell me is this a true story? And he was like, I actually asked him that, and he was like, absolutely, this is serious. So I wanted to go to the county records to actually make sure that these people actually owned this property, right? So I
Yeah.
called my attorney and I was like, okay, let's just make sure because this is crazy. So that all got worked out. So then I had to deal with a sister who was, this guy said was a wild person. And so I called this lady. Turned out she was a total sweetheart. And I told her that, hey, I'm the guy buying the house, and let's see how we get to the closing table. And each the brother and the sister wanted the same thing, which was they wanted the mom to be taken care of. That was their ultimate goal. And where I kind of made a mistake was that I should have gotten on the phone with the sister sooner and really heard her out, from the very beginning, because ultimately she just wanted her mom to be taken care of. And he wanted his mom to be taken care of, but they couldn't communicate that, right? Their family situation had become really combative, and they just were at a place where they just could not communicate their real feelings. And so the only way to communicate was to fight.
Yep.
And if I would have gotten in the middle and been a good mediator, I would have been able to actually hear that out and, mediate between the two and get us to the closing table.
Gotcha.
So needless to say, ends up working out. But when we go see this house, the very first time was a very, very unique thing, right? Do you want me to keep rolling and jump into this?
Do it, man. Yep, I love it.
So I go out there and I have to meet this guy's ex-girlfriend, the guy who was like the representing the mom. He was like, I want you to meet this lady. She's my ex-girlfriend, the sweetheart of my life. I should have married her instead of my wife. I'm like, okay. So this lady meets me at the house, and like, no joke, this is not made up stuff. This is real. And so I go meet her, and she's like doing his work, helping him out. And she's a really kind lady. We go there, and there's this humongous boxer dog in the front yard. And so we go to the front door and we walk in, and we open the door, and there's like no lights on in this house, like at all. And this is like kind of a theme. If you're watching this as a wholesale person, and you've been in many houses, this is just like a theme of our business. Like for some reason, people don't have light bulbs, or for another reason, they don't turn them on. Like don't turn the lights on. They just sit in the dark perpetually all the time, just in complete darkness. And I'm like, oh, is there lights? And they're like, oh yeah, but they didn't flip a switch. Like they're not turning the lights on. And I'm like, I cannot see in this house.
Yeah.
So I bring my video guy, and we go in, but he didn't have a camera at this time, just because I wasn't certain of the living arrangements with all of the people who lived there. They had told me that there were several different people, living there, and I didn't want to scare them off, right? With a big old camera rig rolling in this house. And
you don't want to get whacked by the Hells Angels either.
I did not want to get whacked by Hells Angels. So we just decided to go in, incognito, right? We want to get in there and just look around, maybe snap some cell phone footage. So we go in, and it's completely dark. And there's a guy standing kind of over in the dark kitchen, just kind of looking at me. And he's like, hey. And then I am looking over at this kind of like a bar area in the house. And there's like 4 or 5 different little people like up on this little bar thing, like just staring at me like that, and one of these guys had these humongous glasses on. They look like pop bottle lenses, and it looked like a joke glasses. His eyeballs were like gigantic, and he was like staring at me, and he just kept twitching and looking around, and his eyes were so huge. And I was just like looking at this guy, and I was just trying to keep a straight face, and I'm not a serious person, and I like to have fun, and I'm like, I'm looking at my video guy. I'm looking at JJ, and I'm looking at another guy who's with us, one of my students, and we're just like looking and around. And I'm like inside, I'm like laughing and thinking like, what's happening in there? And then this one girl comes out of a bedroom, and she's wearing this little tiny halter top thing, in like these little tiny night shorts, like she should have been going to bed or something, but it was a tanning bed in this
What?
one room. Yeah. And I guess she got done tanning or something. And she was in this tanning bed and she was like really half dressed and she was drinking this humongous bottle of like juicy juice. Like a
It
real,
just gets weirder and weirder.
like a big bottle of juicy juice, like 64 ounces, like a big one. And she's standing there and she's drinking this humongous thing. And she's just like chugging this big bottle, like goop, goop, you know, just just chugging this thing. Right. And I'm just looking at her and I'm talking to the guy because the guy is the kind of the tenant who's living there. And I'm like, so, what do you know, how's the house, you know? And she's just chugging this juicy juice. And I am just looking and I'm trying in my heart to be like, what's happening here? Like, did you just get off work, you know, from like an adult superstore? Like what's happening here? And you're drinking this juice and you're tanning here. And, oh, this is so weird. Like it's so weird. And then I go to the garage and it's full of like actually trash bags. They weren't paying for trash service. And so they would take all the trash bags and throw them in the garage.
Dude.
Just throw them in the garage.
What is your confidence level in closing the deal at this point? Is it up, down?
Well, good thing is that the house, I actually just started turning the lights on myself. You know, I didn't even wait for them anymore. I was like, I'm just turning the lights on. I'm not walking around the pitch black in this house and people are just staring at me, you know, these weird weirdos. And so I go and I start flipping lights on and the floor actually was brand new vinyl plank flooring. I mean, it's crazy. Brand new vinyl plank flooring. The walls were in good condition. And I had trained myself now at this point to be like, I can see past like the dirt and the smells and the darkness, and I can pretty much determine whether a house is in good condition or not. So I just turn on the lights and they're, you know, acting like gargoyles, you know, like they just turn the light on and they're like, oh no, you know, and so I'm, you know, trying to talk to them and they're like smoking up a storm, like literally having like a smoke party. Oh my God. It was like, I'm surprised like there were like a pack of cigarettes in each mouth. You know, it was just like a haze of cigarette smoke. So I get out of the house and I smelt like I had spent like 8 hours in a bar somewhere, just like in a smoke factory. It was crazy. But the house is in good enough condition. I thought this is a deal. You know, I am buying this house. This is my deal and I'm going to fight for it. So I get out, I call the dude back and I'm like, hey, you know, this is the situation. I'll definitely, you know, take the house. I'm like, what's up with the people and who lives in here? And he's like, I don't know, man. These people are blah, blah, blah. He's going off on them. You know, he's going crazy. And I'm just listening, you know, just listening to him talk. And I was like, what's up with the girl? You know, she drank this whole bottle of like juicy juice, like in front of me, like just chugging this thing. And she drank the whole bottle, like right there, just like gulp, 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 gulp. I swear it was like the weirdest thing. But you know what? That is like if I could like define my wholesale career in like one sentence, it would be I live in the world of interesting. Like I have really interesting stories happen to me. And it is just interesting.
Dude, I was thinking about drawing more pictures on here. I'm like, there's too many interesting things to draw in here. And I'm not good enough, fast enough to draw. Our juicy juice, the tanning bed, the gargoyles, the guys. So did you end up finding out? And I think this is a good lesson for everybody that's on this, right? Is when you're walking into these situations, and you've said this before, Beau, on Behind the Deals and other sessions we've had, you never know what the situation is. You never know what that person's going through, and you have to be ready for anything. Like for anything. Did you find out what the deal was? What was it? Were they squatters or were they his buds? Or
so now this is crazy. I don't even know if I still believe this. Allegedly, the girl was like the older guy's girlfriend, which I just don't know how that's possible. There's such an age gap difference. You know, it just seems like not a thing that should be happening. You know, just a younger girl. I bet she was 20, 21 years old, like that. Just a young college age girl. And he's definitely old enough to maybe be a grandfather to her. And I guess they're girlfriend and boyfriend, some weirdness. I don't know there. But the other people, I think they may have just been certainly doing drugs. I mean,
Mhm.
certainly. I
Yeah.
mean, if not, I would be very shocked. I mean, I thought they would be doing drugs. I mean, it seemed like a place you would do drugs. If
Was
I did drugs, I would do drugs there.
was there any issue? Was there any issue to get them out of the house?
So no, so the arrangement was that it was a month-to-month a lease kind of a
Mhm.
thing, and it was just like a month-to-month lease, and wholesaled somebody who was just going to honor that month-to-month lease and then get them out on their own.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. I like it. So you did work through some big challenges there. So you locked it down for what was the price you locked it down for?
85,000.
Okay. So 85K is what we locked it down for.
Mhm.
Let's do numbers here. 85K.
Mhm.
And then how did you end up selling that property? You just mentioned you sold to an investor who's going to rent it. So locked it down for 85K on contract. It sounds like you might have offered initially it was about 75K because they said that there was
Yes.
okay. So you offered 75K.
Yep, offered 75K. They came back and said they needed 85K. And whether the investor's going to flip it or not, I'm not exactly sure. They probably will keep them in there until they can get them out, but they'll end up flipping this property. But then in the meantime of all of that, right before we go to closing, I get a call from, which I didn't say this, but I get a call from the seller, the guy, and the nursing home the mother lived in. And said, "Hey, Beau, I was just talking to the nursing home. Tell them we're selling the property." And they said, "You got to have an appraisal."
Huh? Really?
And I was like, I don't know about that. I wasn't about to argue, right on the phone with these people and say they're wrong, because it would kill the deal. So I said, okay. And they were like, yeah, we have to have an appraisal because she's in a home assisted living facility and is receiving state funds. So then I was like, all right, let me find out what I have to do legally and I'll call you back. So I called my attorney and in the midst of all this stuff, right? In the middle of us arguing with the sister and the brother are fighting and the Hells Angels, I call my attorney, Harry, and I was like, man, do I have to get an appraisal legally for this? And he was like, if she's received any state funding, you actually need to go get an appraisal.
Is that just a Louisville thing, or do you know if that's
it might be a
pretty
Kentucky law? I'm not exactly certain.
Yep.
But this is the very first deal I've ever had to get appraised.
Huh, really?
Yes. So I actually had to hire a real appraiser, told them what was going on. They went out there and appraised this. I got an appraisal. It was like a couple $100. I think it was like $350 or $400 or something like that. And so I got an appraisal, and that took another week, 10 days or something like that to get that to come back. But the appraiser, when he left the house, he goes, man, I haven't really seen anything like that before. And I was like, really? Because I would assume, you've been in a bunch of houses, over time, right? You've been in houses. And he was like, man, he was like, there's no electricity in this house. He goes, there's trash everywhere. He goes, the garage is full of trash. He goes, they're running the electricity off a generator.
Really?
Oh, man.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And
so their power was shut off by now, right?
Yeah.
So I got you. Yep.
So their power had gotten shut off. So I was like, oh my God. So I go and I called the seller. Then I ended up having to talk to the sister and the sister's husband. And I was like, hey, these people, they don't have electricity. And they're like, oh, we're helping them out. We're going to help them take care of that stuff. And he's been sick for a while. All that got repaired. And it was like hurdle after hurdle after hurdle of stuff that I actually had to go and take care of. It was a very tedious deal. And I think it's taken, I don't know, man, it took months to do this deal. Months. What do you think about? A couple months? About probably 3 months ish.
Would you do it again, knowing how much time you put into it?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would do it again just because now I would do it again because now I learned a lot from this. I learned through the process of doing this something I didn't know before. A couple things that I wish I would have known in the past was the first thing I would have done. I would have gotten on the phone with a sister immediately.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because before I just kind of took this guy's like, hey, like they're on the same page, right? I took his word for it, and I shouldn't have. So I would have gotten on the phone with the sister right off the bat and just walked her through and let her know I'm a real person, and your brother, even though you haven't talked to him in 30 years, you guys are on the same page. And so get on the same page with her so I can make sure that we are all going down the exact same path together. Because if not, me and the brother are going down one path. The sister is like, oh, no, you're not. And if I would have actually gotten on the phone, this would have probably been closed in a month or less than a month. So that would have been the first thing I would have done. And then the other lesson I learned was about working with nursing homes and appraisals and different things like that, and just maybe some complicated legal situations that could arise with that, and how to do that, and how to have a proper appraisal, and working through family situations when they're very, very estranged from each other and don't like each other. And so I would do it again to learn all this again, because this education that I got was worth way more than $20,000.
Dude, I love that mindset with it too, because there's a lot of our clients who who are probably getting leads and they're not turning them into deals because it's not a clear cut, everything's going perfectly wholesale deal for them or flip deal for them. And as you guys are in a really competitive market right now, where there's a lot of other investors and agents as well, we need to be asking the questions of what are the things that we can do to solve bigger, better problems that most of my competitors won't solve. And just like Beau stepped in there, he solved the problem that the agents wouldn't have been able to solve in this case through the traditional retail route, unless they were hybrids, right? Unless they could do what you're doing and make that offer. Yep. And you're solving a problem that an average newer investor probably wouldn't have gone through all those steps, and they would have, the deal died. Or even worse, probably even more common, they wouldn't have even answered that phone call at 10 p.m. And they would have called back and they would have said, well, I can't get a hold of any of my leads. All my leads are they're not good leads, right?
Yep.
Because you answered that call, closed the deal. Do you know, I'm just like finger in the air, approximately how many hours of your time did you have into the deal? This random estimate.
I only went to the house one time, I think. That was about an hour. And then phone calls. The guy is an exceptionally long talker. So my calls with the individual, I had many 30-minute calls. I bet I have 5 hours in the call in just over a 3-month period, about 5 hours in this deal, whether it's on the phone with him or his sister. And that may be a little bit on the long side, but several hours, probably I'd say 4 to 5 hours is pretty fair on that side of things. Emails back and forth. And then obviously getting stood up at closing. Yep. That was, I think 5 hours is probably pretty accurate on that side of things. So, but still, man, shoot, that's good money off 4 or 5 hours worth of work.
$4K an hour, man.
Yeah,
and
man.
That's the thing, guys.
A lot of times we get so caught up in these big numbers and how little we worked. And I think that we have to value the work that we do, man. I mean, we really have to value, like, hey, man, we're making a lot of money. Even if it had been $10,000 I would have made, it would have still been worth it. I mean, I think it's very valuable. And plus, we provided a humongous value to these people. They wanted to sell their house. But if I wouldn't have been good enough at my job, they would have been in the family feud like the Hatfields and McCoys, man. Like, they would have actually been having real problems.
Yeah.
And they couldn't, if I wouldn't have been good at my job and worked through the problems, they would have not had their needs met.
Guys, you solve big problems, you get the bigger paychecks. And when I was diving into this, it's $4K an hour is what you earned on that. But the $4K an hour you earned over a period of the last 5, 6, 7 years as you've been investing, right? It's like you were able to earn $4,000 an hour for your time here because you have built up the experience where you could navigate it. And like you said, you could have probably done it in half the time if you would have got the other owner on the phone sooner, and then would have been $8K an hour or something.
Yeah, that was the biggest mistake I made. Was that was number one mistake. I should have gotten that person on the phone, and that was number one. I
like it. And then, dude, I'm going to do one last calculation. Then, if there are any questions, people can pop questions through, and then we can move towards a wrap. And we've got a little tips that work here in a second. But as we're looking at the marketing source that drove it, then, so we have a time commitment of about 5 hours into this deal once the lead came in. Once again, guys, let's kind of give a little recap of it. This came from a Google search, phone calls, a $20,000 profit. The person did a Google search in his market. Beau's carrot site was ranking really high. We're going to talk about the ROI of that here in a second. Called at 10 p.m. Beau answered it live. A lot of people would not answer that live. And you guys might be asking, well, shoot, I want my family time. That's where we have to decide. Like as an owner, if you get energy from those things and you want to truly solve that seller's problem, cool. Answer those ones that are probably the most motivated. And then have your other team members or other processes do the ones where they might be indicating that they're less motivated. The guy's name was Scott. He was joint owners on the property with his mom was with his sister, but he was representing his mom. He lived out of town, and it sounded like Scott was the guy like saying his sister was crazy, but it kind of sounds like Scott was the crazy guy and his sister was the same guy, the same one.
I'm not sure anymore. I'm not sure. He's like one of the best things that he ever said was, I remember talking to him. I'm just walking around talking to him at my house one night, and he was like, you know what? I just feel like you're a long lost brother I never had,
dude.
Just cool. Really. He's like, man, I feel like your family.
That's awesome.
And I really tried to help him the best I could.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed somebody to talk to.
Yep. That's awesome, dude. And that right there, that's one of those things that we drive so much here at Carrot is you guys will like, we're bringing in profit numbers and we're showing you how it happened. But the real big thing is, like Beau said, he solved the real problem to help the mother get the care that she needed. And the opportunity was this house that was really getting squatted in kind of, by renters that weren't treating it good. Families having a struggle with it. It sounded like by doing this, you were able at least to get the two brother and sister like talking at some level. Whether they're buddies or not is a different thing. And I think you added humanity to the transaction. Scott probably has more hope for humanity because he had a chance to connect with someone who was real and that cared about him and that really solved the problem. And you made the original offer at $75K. They came back needing an extra 10. So the contract was for $85,000. You sold the property or you sold the contract for $105,000 to a local investor. It took about 3 months from the time that the lead came in to the close. The guys didn't show up for closing 2 times, and you solved that problem with them. I love it, guys. Check out if you guys are listening to this on the podcast, I want you guys to go over to YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel to get these live, and you can ask questions or to get the recording. But we're showing pictures of the house right now on our YouTube.
Pot and all the marijuana blanket there.
Dude, describe what we're seeing here, man.
Go to carrot.com/deal. We got the all the behind the deal episodes, carrot.com/deal. Yeah, we're looking at these photos. These are great.
So this is one of the bedrooms right now, and it's just a bed, and it's there's marijuana. It's a blanket with marijuana on it. And this is the kitchen, it's a fine kitchen, and it's just an average kitchen, I had to turn these lights all on to see all this, and it was just, imagine me standing, and it looks fine. If you're looking at this right now, it looks fine, but I had to open the doors and got the lights on, and people started, scattering like little roaches everywhere, man. It's like, ching! Yeah.
I still can't figure out why in old houses, my wife and I were building our house. We've been talking about this. Like, why the heck in older houses, they just didn't put lights in so many places where you should put lights. No wonder you couldn't see anything.
It was popular back in the days.
It's mostly like you plug stuff into walls and it was lamps and stuff back in the day.
The switches worked lamps.
Yep.
Cool. Furnace, just everyday stuff, man, that you go out there and the house is in good shape. It had a good roof on it, good windows. I mean, it was a fine property.
Cool.
They did chop a tree down in the backyard and leave it all there, but that was weird.
Free firewood.
Yeah, of course.
I like it. And guys, ROI in this one. So the investment with SEO, it's kind of tricky to calculate now since you've been doing it for a number of years now, but you haven't hired someone to do any SEO work. I can't remember. Have you hired anyone to do SEO work for you?
I have done most of it all by myself.
Okay.
All of the SEO by myself. And I think I've done pretty good at for a guy who's just bootstrapped it himself. And people are having to pay to beat me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I don't know. I'm pretty proud about that.
And dude, you've been creating content. You've been updating things in there. You've been following some of the tutorials and doing the adjustments. The cool thing is there's probably not a lot of investment of your time now on actively doing SEO. It's kind of making sure there's good, valuable content on there, continuing to keep it active. But are you doing anything right now on the active SEO side of things outside of just updating content?
No, and that's probably my next thing that we need to have a conversation about, just because a lot of my friends watch these things, and I'm going to say this to my friends who are watching, and everybody else who's watching, first off, bring it, get out your wallet, bring it. And I say that because I love you.
Yep.
And number two is that I want them to bring it so it makes the best out of me, right? It's the same reason that Lowe's and Home Depot put themselves right next to each other.
Yep.
Or whenever home improvement stores, they're right next to each other because it brings out the best in other people. So right now, a lot of my friends are paying big money to take over that number one spot in our marketplace. And I want to continue to keep that. And I need to make sure I'm doing some of the things on the active side of things. And we do a lot of video content and things like that, YouTube and stuff like that. So we have been very faithful in that arena, but not on like the behind the scenes necessarily on the stuff that kind of gets that ticker moving.
I like it. I like it. So the ROI with that's pretty darn big. I'm going to close this part with this. Is I had a conversation with CR of Maryland. They're the biggest. I'm going to see if I have this note here. They're the biggest home buyer in Boston. Got my Hawaii trip notes there, and I don't have it here, but basically, we were walking through their marketing methods for 2021, and they're a multi-million dollar company. And I'm not going to share all the numbers, but by far their biggest ROI marketing method, and they're about 3 years into SEO now, 3 to 4. The first year, you're investing a bunch of time or money, and you're not getting a lot of return. And that's where people are like, oh my gosh, I've already put $18,000 or $10,000 into SEO, and I haven't landed a deal yet. And you're 8 months in paying an agency $1,500 a month or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or you're doing it yourself and going, man, I've invested in dozens and dozens of hours or 100 hours and haven't pulled out a deal yet. And then it's year 2 when you really start to get momentum. You start to get that trickle through of leads and traffic. And maybe month 6, month 7, month 8, you go, man, I got a lead. Maybe close that first deal around the first year or 14 months in or something. But then year 2 starts to pick up. Year 3 which is about where you are right now. I think you start to get those number one rankings solidified even more. You probably hit a top ranking, in towards the end of year 1 or top 3. And then you start to solidify it and more rankings pop up and rise. And that's where that momentum comes in. It's just like we've talked about in the past. Your workload is really high in the start with SEO and results are low in the start. But over the long period, your workload goes down and your results and ROI go up, which is really cool seeing these ones crank in.
It was fun. Like I remember probably I was year 2 or something like that. I had gotten up to I cracked the top 5 in some major keywords. And then I got to the top 3 and then I was bouncing between 1, 2, 3 and me and another guy who was really going hard at the SEO side of things. And so we were bouncing back and forth for a whole year, like really an entire year of just, I was 1, then he'd take me back and then I'd be 2 and then we'd swap, it was just back and forth. But now we really have gained some, so made be really solid on our rankings there. And we've been there for a while now. So I'm really proud of that.
I love it. Well, Beau, dude, I appreciate you walking through the Sketchy party house deal, our house party deal. And it's always fun just hearing the stories, seeing the profits and that's what fuels the business is the profits from it. So you can keep doing more of that and make an impact, and you're coaching people and training people now. But the stories are so interesting. It's like, no wonder there's so many house flipping shows up on TV with our friends like Pace Morby and the other ones, because it's interesting work. It's really, really cool.
It's amazing, man. And the next time we hop on here, we'll have to go over our the trash house that we just finished up, and we have an incredible amount of footage in that. It's a very interesting deal, and we'll have to hop on that next time.
I like
the trash house. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, it's great.
Everybody, this episode is actually brought to you by Juicy Juice, the official drink of Carrot. No, just kidding.
Pay up, Juicy.
Actually, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Investor Fuse. Investor Fuse is a partnership we're in right now, and Beau is actually an Investor Fuse customer. Yes,
I am.
Yeah,
yes, I like
so the folks over there have been kind enough to help us get the word out about Behind the Deal, and so we just want to give them a mention. And since Beau is an Investor Fuse customer, so shout out to those guys.
And y'all, if you guys really quick on it, where Investor Fuse plugs in for the podcast audience, for the YouTube audience, is when a lead comes in, like that lead right there was Scott, the guy who called up, or let's say an online opt-in lead, more particularly the online opt-in leads. You can integrate with a tool like Investor Fuse, where the leads then get automatically sent from Carrot over to Investor Fuse. It goes in there so you can fully manage the leads. You can have your team in there managing the leads, make notes. You can do automated follow-ups by text message. You can do automated follow-ups by email, other sources as well. And there's tons of really cool data and functionality in there from the investor who is just really wanting to have a better grasp over their leads, their lead flow, their data, and close more of those deals with follow-up. So guys, go check them out, investorfuse.com. Let them know that Carrot sent you over there. And we have a bunch of our customers that use both systems. So if you guys are looking to manage your leads better and get over to a better system, they've done some amazing, amazing things over the past year with their product. If you have not looked at InvestorFuse in the past year, and you remember them from, let's say, 3 or 4 years ago, you're going to be pleasantly surprised at the massive transformation that they've had in their company overall. The product has changed. They're InvestorFuse 3.0 now, and it's a completely rebuilt platform, not on Podio. Amazing feature set, and we're just pumped to be able to support them and drive people their way. So thank you all at the InvestorFuse crew. Back over to you, Brady.
Yeah, so we'll round it out here. Man, this has been an awesome episode. But we do a little segment on Behind the Deal called Tips That Actually Work. Short and sweet little things you can go do usually on your website and your marketing and your business to get more leads and close more deals. And so we got 2 for you. I only planned for 1, but this is going to be 2. One of them, it comes from, let me share my screen here. It comes from this blog post right here. So we'll link it up in the show notes and in the live stream here. If you're listening to the podcast, go to carrot.com/deal or carrotcast.com, get the show notes, and you can find the link to this blog post, but it's on how to make your carrot site stand out. That's where we found this tip from, but it's super simple. It's called a favicon, tomato.
Yeah, both. It works.
Yeah. And what that is this super small little icon. Whenever you pull up a new tab in Chrome or Safari, this is the icon that pulls up next to your website. It's one of those things that it is kind of a credibility piece, but it makes, when someone lands on your website, it just gives them more of a feeling of legitimacy, credibility versus a stock thing. So when you launch a carrot site, it's going to have a little house symbol on there. And it's not bad, but it's also not your branding. So it's just another way to add another layer of legitimacy, credibility, and help your carrot site stand out. Mm-hmm. So if we go to simplysold.com,
let's hope this
Beau
works.
has his. It does. And this is a tip for Beau because he's got his on there, but I would actually recommend changing it to this your logo by itself instead of the text, because then it'll stand out right there.
Oh, yeah, the little button thing.
I thought I did that actually, but I'm glad I'm on here watching this.
Oh, good. You knew you get a tip out of it. So that's that tip. And go ahead, man.
No, I'm glad I did.
Oh, yeah. Well, the other tip, if y'all weren't listening real closely in the beginning of this episode, Beau was talking about this lead came in through Google Search Console. So one question I have for you, Beau, before we dive into this tip is, do you have a separate phone number for Google My Business, Google Search Console for those leads? Or is it just like your cell phone number?
No, you'd have to ask me a question like this now, because it's the kind of these questions that I don't have answers to. And Trevor knows the answer to this because I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah. So for this one here, Beau, did this one actually go to your website and then called the phone number on the website, or was this from Google My Business?
Yeah. So it pops up on my phone as Simply Sold, that number there. So when that number is called, it pops up as a Simply Sold number, because I programmed it into my phone. So when it comes up as Simply Sold. So I know that they called from that number. But for this Google Search Console thing, I'm not, but this definitely comes up as Simply Sold to my phone.
Yeah. Okay. And if you guys have a Google My Business, that you guys can do some experimentation with it, but some people will use a tracking phone number specifically for their Google My Business, to where if someone calls from that, it might pop up in Beau's phone that he might program it in as Google My Business. Yep. Or on Google PPC. So we have a special tracking phone number on the Google PPC side. So anytime there's a call from the PPC campaign, we automatically dynamically insert that special phone number onto the website, actually, that tells people, like, it shows our PPC phone number on the website itself if they click the ad. So if they call, it shows up as Google PPC. And so you guys can that'd actually be an amazing piece of content that we should do. Brady, you guys should write that down. It's how to properly set up your phone call tracking across all.
That's a very good tip. I like that, because people it's kind of technical, but not too difficult, but it's just a lot of little mini steps.
And it's valuable as heck, because then if you're doing PPC ads, like in the early days when we were doing it, and you get a deal that comes in that calls off of the phone number at the top of the site, you're like, I don't know where they came from. I think they came from here. We're not sure. So that's where that tracking
that's a problem. Yeah. You have no idea where your phone calls are coming from.
Exactly. Well, guys, one last thing I want to show, and I know this is Audible on you, Brady, but this is brand new, and I think it's kind of cool. I'll give a verbalize it for people on the podcast, because we just released this like a day or two ago.
Is this the SEO?
No, this is the new
the lead gen banner. Hold on. Do you mind if I throw in one more thing? Can I Audible your Audible?
Audible the Audible. Throw the Audible, the double.
This has never been done before, folks.
This is the new. This is the 4 tips that actually work segment of Behind the Deal. We're just going to keep going. Nice. We're just going to use all of our content ideas for the next year in this episode. So if y'all were listening closely in the beginning of the episode, Beau got this from Google. I guess they searched him and they went to his website. But when we were chatting, I went to Google and I searched "buy my house, Louisville." I hit search. And let's share this up here. This was not planned. Let's see. Buy my house.
Watch me be like rank 9 or something like that.
Well, I didn't want it to be biased, and so we didn't plan this. I'm like, man, I really hope Beau shows up. He's got to make Carrot look good. And so you're showing up. You're showing up here in Google My Business, and then you're showing up ranking. It looks like number 2 right here. This is awesome. Yep.
Yes.
And so the tip here is Google My Business. This is low hanging fruit in a lot of industries, but real estate too right now. Not enough people take advantage of Google My Business in terms of like actually getting reviews from your sellers after you close the deal. Go back and ask them to write a Google review, give them a gift card, anything to just get a Google review. Make sure your hours are set on here. Notice Beau's said, okay, so this is a hot tip here. Beau says open 24 hours. Probably why the guy called at 10 p.m.
Dude.
And the guy above and below him says closes at 6:30. Closes.
There we go.
Tip 16 now. So
that is good. That's a good one.
It is good. I can't take. I actually cannot take credit for that. I gotta give credit, since we're just on this roller coaster ride here. I got to give credit to Keith Sant.
Yep.
Keith Sant
for that. So Keith, if you're watching this, thank you for that.
If anybody watching or listening to this wants a piece of content where we dive deep on Google My Business, what to do with those listings, if you want to see content on that, let us know in a comment or send me an email, brady@carrot.com, whatever. Get a hold of us and say you want Google My Business content, and we'll consider doing a piece like that if there's some demand there. But that's a tip. Trevor, you want to run with your Audible? Tip number 74?
I'll show this last one here. And dude, that tip you just gave there, Brady, and all these other ones, these would be great reels on IG, or they'd be great like YouTube shorts too.
They would actually, yeah.
These little tiny tips, those would be really good ones for us to document, and we'll just crank out the shorts on these.
All the Carrot junkies, they're still watching and listening to this. I'm positive, because there's the guys who are out there going to do this stuff.
I like it. I'm just going to show this really quick, guys, and you guys will see more about it. But we just rolled this out. We did some testing on it. We should have a blog post coming out sometime in the near future on this. But it's our Carrot lead generation banner. The team ran a bunch of testing, especially on mobile devices. But you can see how on some of the big sites out there, when you scroll down, there can be this little bar that stays with you. So there's always a call to action at the top of the site, right? And so you guys are going to be able to find this now. It's in the design section. So if you go here and go to design, and then you go down here at the very bottom, Carrot lead generation banner, it's going to be disabled, but just go ahead and click it and click enable. That puppy, it's going to automatically add a lead generation banner. It's going to match it to your company branding. And then you can text and say, hey, I just want to have text on there. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but that might be something that could be interesting. You could have text in a button. What I would suggest, though, is actually text in a form, and then it's going to pop it up. I'm going to pick Beau's primary form. This right here says enter your address. That one doesn't have anything. So the way that you fix that is you pop over into your forms and you just type in like that little description. So I'm just going to put phone here. Okay. And I'm going to click save. And that should then, I believe, and I might be wrong on that. Okay. I was totally wrong on that. That's why I own the company. I'm not the guy who builds the stuff. But there's something that you can do on here that actually makes it so there's a placeholder. There we go. The placeholder is what I was looking for. So you can go ahead and click save on that puppy there. And after I resubmit this and save it, then it's going to show phone there. Okay, guys. So within 10 to 15 seconds, you can now have this new Carrot lead gen banner at the top of your sites if you want to. And we're going to put out the data on this in not too long that shows you where it started to perform better for people. So go check it out, guys. Try it out, leverage it, and see how it works for you. So let me go choose this again really quick. Choose that form. And I think if I did it right, it should now bring phone in there. I'm going to get rid of that label because I jacked it up. But guys, go try it out.
That's sweet.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's wrap this puppy up. We're right at an hour. Everybody listen to this on the Carrot Cast. I want you guys to go to carrot.com/behind, carrot.com/behind. Is that the right one? I keep on using.
You see me grin. That's why I
Or is it deal?
Yeah, it works. Yeah, behind or deal, which we made both.
Thank you. Carrot.com/deal. Go there, guys. You're going to find this episode on video and all the other video episodes where we break down a deal every other week with one of our amazing Carrot customers. Once again, if you guys are needing lead management, follow up, really want to move from a system that's just not kind of working for you, especially if you're scaling a team out, go check out Investor Fuse, y'all. Proud sponsors of Behind the Deal. And Mr. Beau Hollis is a client of theirs. Keith Sant, who's been on Behind the Deal a number of times, is a client of theirs as well. And Beau, dude, appreciate you hopping on, man. I'm pumped to hear
Thanks
about
for having me, man.
The trash deal coming up too.
Oh yeah, that's going to be one of the best single family house deals I've ever done, which is
really
a big statement. Yes, the most money I've ever made on one deal, on one single family house.
That's an awesome cliffhanger there. So guys, go to carrot.com/deal, get notified for all the future ones that we have coming out and check them out. You're going to be able to see Beau's highest profit deal he's ever done here on a future Behind the Deal. So thank you guys. Subscribe on YouTube, hit subscribe on the podcast player that you're on right now. And Brady, thank you for driving this. Braden behind the scenes, thank you for running the show. And Beau, man, appreciate you, buddy.
See you guys.
Right, absolutely. See ya.